So son, nice guys finish first. Now, that's the first time that you've probably heard about that. You've probably more heard of nice guys finish last. And I'm going to tell you that I recently recognized that that is a lie. Now, in my 20s, I'll be honest, I didn't have a lot of luck with the ladies. I would say that 20% of the time was success, but the other 80% of the time, it was just pure failure. What will happen is that all the bad boys, or what you call chads, were always the ones that were getting women. I was always the guy that would be around the table at the bar, hearing my friends talk about their conquests day after day, week after week. They were that bad boy. They were that chad. But fast forward to now, I've recognized that these bad boys are not even finishing first. They're actually finishing last. In fact, they're not even getting near to the finish line. So I'm gonna get onto the topic of why I think bad boys are not even coming close to the finish line later on in the video. I just want to say that if you're in your 20s right now, then chances are you are impressionable. That means that the people around you, what they do, affects you and how you think about yourself. I remember when I was in my 20s, I had a bunch of bad boy friends, chads, and they would go around getting laid a lot. But I realized that the way that they did that was they were not treating the woman that they got with very well at all. So I thought that in order to get laid, which is what you think about when you're a harmonious 20-year-old, was to treat women poorly. But I can never find it in my heart to do that. Because you see, mom always loved her kids very much, and that kind of rubbed off on my brother and I. We were taught to be considerate and kind to other people, kind of like following the teachings of Jesus, right? So whenever it came to relationships or getting intimate with someone else, you always want the heart to be involved. And I can never get over the fact of hurting someone to fulfill my own desires, which is my selfish lust. So I was never able to be the bad boy. I was always the nice guy. So being the nice guy means that there are long, dry spells a lot of the time. So even to this day, the scariest thing to me is hurting someone emotionally and physically. It's something that I think of right off the bat when I'm getting involved with someone. But I'm not perfect. I did fall into temptations, had casual encounters where every single woman that I've got together with, was intimate with, it was, in hindsight, not a good decision because every single one of them were bad for me. Every single one of them was a bad girl, the opposite of the bad boy. And they didn't care about you. We were just there to satisfy our own selfish desires, right? Our lust. And after the deed is done, what you discover is it's just empty. And what you find is that you find yourself a little bit broken inside. And that is not good for you because at one point in life, you would want something more. But to get to that something more, you will have to pick up the pieces. You have to deal with the trauma and the damage that has been done to you. And son, unpacking that, it is super difficult. And I think that most people, they're just unable to do that. That's why we have so much broken people in this world. So I just turned 33. And I could tell you honestly, because I did the counting, that I've only had a handful, one hand, of casual encounter. And here's the thing. It took me 5 years. It set me back 5 years. So I had to unpack the trauma, do the work of bettering myself, and that took 5 years. That means that the average for me was, for each partner, it took 1 year for me to unpack the trauma. So 1 year per partner. And lately I've been thinking of longevity a lot. Maybe that's because I just turned 33 and I started to think about how fragile we are as humans. I mean, we die easily. We succumb to diseases easily. I mean, if you're doing the hookup thing, it's easy to encounter an STD. So my friend, I think his body count has to be in the hundreds. And he's a little bit older than me. And I remember the last time I've seen him, he was telling me how he wanted something longer, something more meaningful. I mean, he had long-term relationships, but they all fell apart because he is a bad boy. And he has never done any of the work to unpack his trauma and grow himself into a better human being. So when he finds a nice girl, he always loses her. And with the body count of 100 and being unwilling to unpack, he is struggling with finding that girl for him. Because every time he goes and satisfies that self-lust, that self-desire, he ends up with a girl that's like him. A bad girl, broken inside. And now he's kind of conditioned so that he thinks that all girls are the girls who's selfish, only thinks of themselves, not loving, would cheat on you in a snap of a finger. And that's his mindset. So he is conditioned for brokenness, and I think that is really sad. The last girl that was healthy for him, he was unable to get any further with her because he was unable to give her his heart. She was unwilling to wait for him any longer to change, so she left him. And now he's looking for the next girl that he wishes would be a healthy girl, but he's unable to attract that kind of girl because likelihood is that she's not interested in him because he hasn't done the inner work. So when we're talking about pure body count, then I am 100% finishing last. But when we're talking about finding something meaningful, maybe building a family, finding a healthy partner to grow and live life with, I haven't gotten to that point yet, to be honest. So I feel like maybe I'm gonna end up as second or third. We'll see. But every single time that I go back home to Vancouver, visit home, and I catch up with my high school friends, what I've noticed is that they were all very nice guys. And they have dated their partners for decades plus. So that means I'm 33 right now. They started dating their partners maybe like early on in the years of uni or college, or some of them were high school sweethearts as well. Every time I go back, I watch them because many of them have families now, what I want. And then I realize, these guys, these nice guys are the ones that finished first. So it's 2024 and there's this term called simps. It's not a very nice term. What a simp is it is a man who puts the desires and wants of a woman before his own, always. Now, I think that simps and nice guys, those two terms are used interchangeably. It goes hand in hand. And people think that they are the same. I'm here to tell you that they're not. Nice guys and simps are two different things. What a simp is a simp is a pushover, whereas a nice guy isn't. And I'll admit that for a lot of my 20s, I was a simp. I went above and beyond to satisfy the desires of a girl that I really liked over my own. So a good example is back in, I think, my mid-20s, I met this girl that I really liked. And I would text her every single day, ask her how her day was. And that was because I wanted to be sure. I wanted to know where my status was in her life. I wanted to know where we were at. And by texting her and messaging her every day, I thought that I would be able to show her that, I was kind and I was caring, and that would somehow win her affection. How did the story end up? Well, I didn't win her affections. Things actually ended up really bad. She found another guy and tossed me to the side. And that's what simps do, because they aren't confident that they will find another girl of this stature, and that all comes from a scarcity mindset. So fast forward through a bunch of personal development and self-growth in my late 20s, and especially in my early 30s, the come to Jesus moment. That is when I learned to place God first. That is when I learned the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. What I do now when I meet people is I just shower them with love and kindness. Whenever they have problems and they come to me and they want to talk, I don't talk with them. I just open up my 2 ears and listen. And it's funny what happens when you do that. What happens is that they actually become attracted to you, and their response is they hit you up even when you don't ask them. And right now, I just saw this cat, and I think he's pooping, and he's coming at me, and he's gonna scratch me. Oh, you're so cute. How are you? Meow. Meow. For some weird reason, cats love me, and she just pooped, and she's probably wiping all the poop into my hands. But, how are you? You are so cute. Oh! You saw a cat bite me. Oh, man, I think I'm gonna bleed. So, for the nice guy, after you listen to their problems, all you want to do is you want to ask them if there is anything they would want to pray for, and you pray with them, and then you just let them go. And it took me 32 years in order to learn that lesson. So, all of this to say that the nice guy is no pushover. I'm not going to do something for someone that I know that they can do themselves, but a simp, they're going to bend over backwards in order to do whatever you ask them. And that is the one big difference that I've learned between nice guys and simps. Simps are not willing to take risks. They're not willing to push the envelope. They always want to stay in the safe place. They always want to know where they're at with a girl in order to not risk losing them forever. But for the nice guy, they don't care. If they lose a girl, they lose a girl. It's better for them to lose a girl than to spend a valuable time, limited time that we will never get back with the wrong person. That is their mindset. That's the mindset of a nice guy. So when I was growing up, thanks to TV, what I thought was you can only be one or the other. You can be a nerd or you can be the popular tough guy. The nerd is always weak and unpopular. That is what I saw and was somewhat ingrained in my mindset when I was growing up through elementary and high school. And what that led to was it led to me not trying in school because I thought you have to be one or the other. To be popular, you have to act like you don't care, which resulted in poor grades and low intelligence. And I think the guys in this day and age, in 2024, have the wrong role models. They look up to, for example, Andrew Tate, which he shows off nice cars, he has arrogant outbursts, and to me, it looks like he puts down women a lot all over his social media. And for some reason, he is the bad boy that all women want. But I think that is the wrong type of model you want to take after. I think what you should take after is the kind killer. So what is the kind killer? The kind killer to me is the man or woman that understands human psychology so well that they can actually manipulate people. They have that power, but like Spider-Man, they use that power responsibly. Instead of manipulating people, they use their knowledge of human psychology and leverage it to understand hearts and save people. Now, I'm honestly not a big fan of Tate, and I don't know him that well, but I do think that the man understands human psychology to a T. He is a master at it, and he's so good that he can get a lot of young men to invest in his courses, which I'm not even sure actually helps anyone, but hey, it helps Tate, it helps him make a lot of money. But how he's leveraging his human psychology, his knowledge of human psychology, to me, it just seems manipulative. Now, there is a man who has leveraged his understanding of human psychology to save me, and a lot of people before me, and his name was Jesus. Right now, I think there's a huge canyon for all men who thinks about wanting to finish first, and we all want to be first, right? The majority of men actually make the wrong choice because when they choose which model to follow, which model to take after, instead of taking after the Son of God, they take after man. Instead of taking after Jesus Christ, they look and follow Andrew Tate. So that one wrong choice is going to prevent them from becoming first. And that's what happened in my 20s, right? Because before Andrew Tate came into the scene in 2023, 2024, there was a lot of Dan Bilzerian, right? Poker player is always surrounded by a woman, and guys look up to him. He's driving a nice car. He has an entourage of 20 hot women. And you're thinking to yourself, man, this guy is living the life. But if you start asking questions like, what are these women here for? Why do they surround him? Do they surround him because they love him, that they want to share him with 19 other girls? Or because there is something that they can get from it? It's probably the latter. And then there's Jesus. So there's this one girl in my small group, and she asked for prayers for her because she is literally being persecuted because she believes in Jesus, that he rose from the dead. And that goes contrary with the beliefs of her family. So it's Christmas time around this time, and she sent some gifts home to her family just from the warmness of her heart. And the response she got from her family was that if you come back to our family and see us, we're gonna kill you. So she is being persecuted by her own family. So to me, as a man, you want to follow that guy that can touch your heart so much that you are willing to give everything. You are willing to give your life to follow him. You know, the hardest part that I think we have to learn to do is to become constant. You know, there's only one thing that remains constant, and that is God. And I know we're humans, we get tempted. But because we model Jesus, I know that you won't ever betray the people that you care about, that the people that you love, the people that place their trust in you. And if you do unintentionally screw up, then you're going to ask for forgiveness. You're going to pray about it. And you are going to make it a point that you are not going to repeat the same mistake again. And that, son, is what I think is the kind killer. Understand human psychology and don't use it to manipulate, but use it to love. So I swear, I am probably going to get canceled for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. There is one big fear that I think all guys have in this day and age where we have such a big obsession with body count. And that is marrying and loving the girl with a high body count. Oh no, you are not the first, second, or third choice. The girl that you love and want to marry are actually settling for you because they cannot get with their first choice. Boo-hoo. That scarce train of thought has lived in my head rent-free for way too long. And that is what happens when your pride gets in the way. You start playing the game of, I'm not gonna commit until I sleep with this many women, 20 women, 50 women, 100 women. And guys, for a guy, that's really hard to do unless you are super famous, super wealthy, or super good looking. And I think even if you have all that, it's gonna be extremely difficult. And I thank God that he protected me from all of that, because if I would have had all that, I would have been a screaming hot mess. So the sad part is that with that train of thought, guys are focused on sleeping with one woman one weekend, another woman the next weekend, another woman the weekend after that. They're more focused on accumulating trauma. And what happens is that the woman that would have blessed their lives, they never give her a chance. And at the end of the day, what they end up with is accumulated trauma that they would have to learn to unpack. And like I said in the beginning of this video, many men do not unpack their trauma. I would include women as well. So at the end of the day, my hypothesis became this: like attract like. I'm a pretty conservative guy these days, and a lot of the women that have been coming to my life, not surprisingly, are conservative Christian women. And here's the thing, you will never know what a guy or girl's body count is. They will have either lost count themselves, or they will not be truthful and lie about it, in which case you don't want to be with that person. It's not like everybody is going to keep a spreadsheet of the people that they sleep with. Or maybe there are a couple of psychos out there that do that, but most people, I don't think they're gonna do that. And for, some woman, they're gonna be like, okay, that one night stand in the summer of 2024 in Ibiza does not count. The body count doesn't matter. And logic and reason will make most people give you a very low body count, a very low number, in order to put themselves in a better light. Because humans, we have these things called pride, and we want to make ourselves look better than we are. And son, I am definitely included in that. Though I will tell you that my handful of casual encounters is actually a handful. I actually went through that in my mind, replayed the number of women that actually I brought to bed, and it was a handful. But I'll tell you something, what doesn't betray you is behavior. I believe that every casual encounter that you have is going to leave some sort of trauma on you. I would call it some sort of dark mark on you and the other person. And we can open up a whole can of worms about that topic, but I'm not going to do that here. But that dark mark will usually come out as you're dating, maybe through the form of gaslighting, trauma, arguments. It will affect your relationship somehow. Like if you're trying your best to love them, but what they're doing is they're not reciprocating, they're not trying, they become silent, and you don't know what the heck is happening, chances are maybe there is a high body count that could be one of the reasons, or they could have just been sexually or emotionally abused when they were growing up. You never know. So at that point, body count just doesn't even matter at all. In that position, what I do is I try to get them help. If they think they need help, I'd love on them, I'd pray for them, and I'll turn them to Jesus, and then I'll leave. Because ultimately, that's not the relationship that I'm looking for. And that's all I got, son. And you got to use them as loose guidelines, because to me, they're very much unproven theories that I have, that I'm living by right now, and they so far seem to be working. Life is actually pretty awesome, and I don't want you to take these unproven theories and live with them as if they're gospel, because they're not. They're unproven theories. So I want you to take them and maybe integrate them with the framework that you have in your mind to see what works, see what fits together. That aside, if you think you learned something from this video, then I think you should check out this video right here, because you're gonna learn even more.